We are all in awe of your technical abilities.
Okay, Tracy.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight in our Interfaith Thursday meetings. It's Thursday night here. Thank you, Emily, for joining from Spain, where it must be in the morning time. But anyway, as a custom that we have in Australia, is that we give acknowledgement to the traditional custodians of this land that is called Australia. And it's actually made up of many different countries. I myself am on Worimi country, and we're different names around the nation as a whole, but we pay our respect and give our gratitude for the custodianship which has been taking place on this land since time immemorial, and a holy commission that was taken up to really love and care for the land and all life upon it. So we thank the elders and all the people for keeping that tradition and being able to maintain it over all that time, and still maintaining it and finding the ways to expand that knowledge and that gift to more people. So now we have a number of 2 musical items, and then we have our readings, and then we have our guest speaker, Emily Francis, talking to us about living with love, with creation and, animal liberation. But it sounds like you would get on very well with our First Nations people. But anyway, we turn it over to Siva to start our music. Thank you, and our time of devotion.
itself, unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you, unless you abide in me. Neither can you, unless you abide in me. Neither can you, unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing.
I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me? I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me? That I may name thy name and fill thy soul with the Spirit of life, of life. I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me? I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me? That I may name thy name and fill thy soul with the Spirit of life, of life. I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me? I love thy creation, hence I created thee. Wherefore do thou love me? That I may name thy name and fill thy soul with the Spirit of life, of life, of life, of life.
Magnified be thy name, O Lord my God. Thou art he whom all things worship, and who worshippeth no one, who is the Lord of all things, and is the vassal of none, who knoweth all things, and is known of none. Thou didst wish to make thyself known unto men, and therefore thou didst, through a word of thy mouth, bring creation into being, and fashion the universe. There is none other God except thee, the fashioner, the creator, the Almighty, the most powerful. I implore thee, by this very word that hath shone forth above the horizon of thy will, to enable me to drink deep of the living waters, through which thou hast vivified the hearts of thy chosen ones, and quickened the souls of them that love thee, that I may at all times and under all conditions turn my face wholly towards thee. Thou art the God of power, of glory and bounty. No God is there beside thee, the supreme ruler, the all-glorious, the omniscient.
Need to unmute.
I thought I did, sorry. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created his own image. In the image of God he created them, male and female. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was the God, and the Word was God. The Word was with God, and was God. The same was in God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life.
Earth, water, flame, air, ether, life, and mind. And individuality, those 8 make up the showing of me, manifest. These be my lower nature, learn the higher, whereby thou valiant one, this universe is by its principle of life produced, whereby the worlds of visible things are born, as from a yoni. No, I am the womb. I make and I unmake this universe. Than me there is no other master, prince, no other maker. All these hang on me, as hangs a row of pearls upon its string. Hindu Bhagavad Gita, Edwin Arnold.
When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which you hast ordained, what is man, that you art mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that you visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. You madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. You hast put all things under his feet, both sheep and oxen, ye and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the sea. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. You is scripture, Psalm 8:3-9.
He it is who sends down water from the sky, whence ye have drink, and whence the trees grow, whereby ye feed your flocks. He makes the corn to grow, and the olive, and the palm, and the grape, and some of every good. Verily, in that is a sign unto a people who reflect, and he subjected to you the night and the day, and the sun and the moon and the stars are subjected to his will. Verily, in that are signs to a people who have sense, and what he has produced for you on the earth, varying in hue. Verily, in that is a sign for a people who are mindful. He it is who has subjected the sea, that ye may eat fresh flesh therefrom, and ye bring forth from it ornaments which ye wear. And thou mayest see the ships claving through it, and that ye may search after his grace, and happily ye may give thanks. And he has cast firm mountains on the earth, lest it move with you, and rivers and roads happily ye may be guided, and landmarks, and by the stars too are they guided. Is he who creates like him who creates not? Are thy them unmindful? But if ye wonder, if ye would number the favors of God, ye cannot count them. Verily, God is forgiving merciful. The Quran.
The one true God hath everlastingly existed and will everlastingly continue to exist. His creation, likewise, hath had no beginning and will have no end. All that is created, however, is preceded by a cause. This fact in itself establishes beyond the shadow of a doubt unity of the Creator. Thou hast, moreover, asked me concerning the nature of the celestial spheres. To comprehend their nature, it would be necessary to inquire into the meaning of the allusions that have been made in the books of old to the celestial spheres and the heavens, and to discover the character of their relationship with the physical world and the influence which they exert upon it. Every heart is filled with wonder at so bewildering a theme, and every mind is perplexed by its mystery. God alone can fathom its import. The learned men that have fixed several thousand years the life of this earth have failed, throughout the long period of their observation, to consider either the number or the age of the other planets. Consider, moreover, the manifold divergencies that have resulted from the theories propounded by these men. Know thou that every fixed star hath its own planet, and every planet its own creature, whose numbers no man can compute. The Holy.
O Son of Being, thou art my lamp, and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. O, I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. O Son of Being, with the hands of power I made thee, and with the fingers of strength I created thee, and within thee I have placed the essence of my life. Be thou content with it and seek not else. For my work is perfect, and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof.
O my God, the God of bounty and mercy, thou art the King by whose commanding word the whole creation had been called into being. And thou art that all-bountiful one, the doings of whose servants have never hindered him from showing forth his grace, nor have they frustrated the revelations of his bounty. Suffer this servant, I beseech thee, to attain unto that which is the cause of his salvation in every word of thy words. Thou art worthy, the Almighty, the most powerful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. Allah.
Create in me a pure heart, oh my God, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, oh my hope, through the Spirit of power, confirm thou me in thy cause. Oh my best beloved, confirm thou me in thy cause, and by the light of thy glory reveal unto me thy path. By the light of thy glory reveal unto me thy path. O thou, the goal of my desire, from all except thee, oh my Master, oh my Master, and let the tidings of the revelation of thine incorruptible essence bring me joy. Oh, thou who art the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden, the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the 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 hidden.
Thank you. So this evening we have Emily Francis talking to us about a topic close to my heart, about sustainable living and how we can do that in a compassionate and ethical way in harmony with the rest of creation. So she's actively involved in promoting this, a better way of living on the internet, which is where Siva met her. And so let's give a warm welcome to Emily, and, you know, with open hearts and ears. Thank you, Emily.
Hi. So I'm going to share. See if I can share my screen. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so living with love for animal liberation. It says I have an unstable internet connection, so please let me know if you lose me.
Yep.
Can you imagine a world where humans, animals, and nature live as one, where we believed it was our duty to care for Earth, the animals, and each other, and we did it without a second thought? We gave with love. It may seem entirely impossible now, but that's because of the way we perceive the world and the way we perceive what it is to be human. How can love benefit the animal kingdom? I'll address this question by looking at the following, although not necessarily in this order. So, awareness of how animals are exploited, By exposing the injustices, we can appreciate the enormity of the problem. The moral concern. What makes us think we have the right to treat animals the way we do? Change of attitude. By valuing the valueless, we create a loveless society, and by valuing what's meaningful, we can ultimately change our reality, our life experience. Love heals. By unlearning what we have been taught, we can start to begin to remember our innate capacity to give and receive. Love without exclusion. Love includes everyone and everything, regardless of race, sex, nationality, human or non-human. Love is understanding that all life is sacred. How we exploit animals. Animals in the food system, animal industry, animals as workers and tools, animal experimentation, animals used for entertainment. Never in history have animals been exploited to the extent that they are now. Even when it becomes a public health threat, the production of cheap meat is deemed necessary as long as people need feeding, even though it's widely agreed that intensive farming methods are a major concern. Not only do we kill animals in barbaric ways for food and clothes, in the name of science, we breed them to test technology and chemicals. They are taken from the wild and placed in extremely small, unnatural enclosures for us to stare at, trained to perform for our entertainment, and forced to live in the confines of four walls for our benefit. We torture and kill 2 billion sentient animals a week. We kill 1 billion oceanic animals every 8 hours. If we humans were killed at the same rate, we would be wiped out in one weekend. Philip Wallen, Australian philanthropist and animal activist. The intense farming and immense negative environmental and social damage. But instead of clamping down on these activities, they continue as the demand for meat and fish rises. We all know that factory farmed animals are treated grotesquely, some constantly bred during their short dismal lives. Not only are the meat and dairy horrific cruel industries, they produce products that are noxious, and it's a grossly insufficient source of food. The industries pollute our rivers, destroy the lands and the lives of many people, causing displacement and destruction to wildlife. It's alarming that factory farming is legal, especially when we know the emissions from factory farms now cause more deaths than other industries, and at the same time, it's one of the least regulated. They were using sell what they produce by these methods. The whole motive behind this. It's legal to use torture and kill them to sell their bodies. It's legal to shoot, capture, and sell wild animals for fun, for profit, and self-gain. It's legal to use animals in the name of science. We need to ask ourselves this question: how is this possible? To put it simply, I've been taught that we need to control our environment or it will control us. This is our mindset. Human life is more important than non-human life. Value ownership, progress. We can save the planet. Conditioned ideas about animal rights. We've been taught to see a separation from non-humans. We say humans and animals as though life falls into just two categories, us and all of them. As with nature, we believe that we are physical beings and nature is separate from us. This is a powerful mindset that is not easy to break free from. It's been ingrained in us since we were small. We assume that we are the world's standard, that all things should be compared to us. This mindset or belief system allows us to determine that a human life is more important than any other animal's life, and the interests of humans are far more important than a non-human's, giving us full reign over the animal kingdom and Mother Earth itself. With this mindset, we value money and ownership, calling it power and progress, believing we can fix or save the world. Although fighting for rights, animal environment and human rights challenges and pushes the boundaries, there's always someone that will disagree, as the rights an animal has or that a human has will always depend on the interest of those in power. And as we all know, the rights for one human will not be the same rights for another. The same with non-humans. Animal rights will depend on their usefulness in this reality. Our conditioned ideas about what rights animals should have and which should have more than others differ in cultures around the world. We are so conditioned that it's difficult to understand why certain animals are killed for causing absolute, but to eat another animal species is acceptable. This is deeply ingrained within our society, within our system, and deep within our minds. Fighting for human, animal, and environmental rights is necessary, as this uncovers the deceitful nature of any injustice. But we need to be able to see the injustices in the first place. A lot of the time, injustices within our societies are veiled, either by ourselves or greater forces, by political bias or by ourselves as we choose to see the world a certain way. But if we think about most of the atrocities that occur, they are usually man-made. Whether it's war, immigration, migration, genocide, animal extinction, world hunger, stolen land, domestic violence, slavery, racism, sexism, speciesism, or any kind of animal, human, or environmental exploitation, they are all the result of a loveless society. Throughout history, society has tried to treat social problems by legislative action, warfare, market manipulation, laws and prohibitions, only to see these problems persist or reoccur despite the treatment. We need to focus on the root problems. We've definitely lost our way, but maybe we're beginning to realise that our need to control everything just doesn't work. The ego has a lot to answer for. Not only has the ego created a loveless world, it holds this. Fear is what our belief system is based on, and it's a fear-based society that will commit the most heinous crimes on innocent animals, Mother Earth, and each other. We are all suffering, some more than others, but we are all in pain because of an over-identification with the human body and our physical existence on Earth. We try to fix the current situation we find our planet in. No real fundamental change is possible or change under current systems or forces of oppression and exploitation. Sorry. It only exemplifies the life sucks and then you die attitude, which so far hasn't got us anywhere. In fact, this mindset only perpetuates the loveless world we live in. We fear each other and hate each other, as every action we take is usually based on thoughts concerned with personal benefit and gain without any shared purpose. We need to dismantle the thought system of fear. But let's not forget, we are not the victims here. They are. Abilities said to make us human, such as empathy, communication, grief, tool making, etc., all exist to varying degrees among other minds sharing the world with us. The somewhat insecure insistence that animals are not like us is far from the truth. Many people that observe animals can verify that they are intelligent, social, emotional, personable, respectful, playful, self-aware and compassionate, which can be more than said for many humans on this planet. All animals want to communicate with us on some level or another. We just don't know how to. We have forgotten. We need to rebuild our relationship with the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom deserves our respect in the same way that human life deserves respect. Our purpose is to love them as Earth loves them. All animals love, all animals want to live, yet we betray them. We betray Earth, we betray ourselves. But fear is like a perverse comfort zone. Living with fear isn't really living, as the ego is a false identity of who we are. Love is power, love is living, love is having a relationship with the true self. The truth of oneself can be discovered in everyday life. To live with care and kindness is all that's necessary. Having compassion and love for all animals could be a reality. Maybe this scares us, just as having compassion and love for each other does. Can you imagine loving all the people you meet or don't meet, even the ones that have hurt you? And more important, loving yourself. Really difficult, but not impossible, so I'm told. When we start to investigate and practice any kind of deep self-healing, it is without a doubt all about love and forgiveness. Love is so powerful that it changes our perception of the world. It changes our relationship with life and with ourselves. Love allows us and all life forms to be just as the universe created us. As each of us heal through love, we can find our purpose, the reason why we are here, to serve and protect the world more effectively. Though our greatest power to change the world lies in our power to change our mind about the world. Just put some points here. Move away from over-identification with the human ego. Tap into our inner resources. Accept ourselves as loving, caring and kind. Let go of our perceptions and unlearn what we have been taught. All life is sacred. We live in a world marked by physical, mental and emotional suffering. What can we learn about our untapped inner resources? What exactly is the effect of a person or group that radiates love, acceptance and compassion? Is it really possible that our consciousness holds the power to uplift not only ourselves, but also the world? This is an extraction from Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins, which I highly recommend. Using a map of consciousness, he explains how the ways consciousness express themselves are profound and far-reaching, destructive of life in both the individual and society at large, or constructive expressions of power. It's a very insightful book. Love is not exclusive. Love is not about fulfilling our own personal needs. Love is awareness of our oneness. If we could imagine ourselves as the universe created us, what would the world look like? If only we could just let go and surrender to the natural powers of the universe. By imagining equality for all, we will nurture a deeper connection with things larger than ourselves. The basic principle of equality requires equal consideration for all life. While we continue to see Earth, the animals, and each other as a commodity or resource, we will continue to suffer. It seems we've made a mistake. Now we've all been bought into the idea that other animals are here to serve us. What if it's the opposite? We've abused our relationship with animals, taken advantage of these passive beings we share the earth with. Many innocent animals aren't where they are meant to be. They are living in hell, our hell created by us. And we need to change with the earth itself, but also change our relationship with our very selves. The more healed the mind is, the closer we are to heal everything. By accepting ourselves as loving, caring and kind, our capacity for compassion will move mountains. So these are my solutions. Deepen our relationships with each other, with non-human animals, the earth, our environment, nature, ourselves, and connect with spirit. If we were to listen to the animals, what would they say? if we listened to Earth or to the universe, what would she say? I believe they would speak with a kind and loving heart and say they need us and that they love us. We need to find intimate love for all, because without love, we have a lot to lose. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
So if anyone has any questions or comments to further our discussion, if you could please raise your hand from the reaction button. It just makes it easier that not to miss anyone who wants to say anything. It's okay, Colin. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. That was an awakening kind of talk, because living in a city, all I experience is going to the supermarket and seeing the end product, and it's already wrapped up, and not really aware of the process and what's happening at the start of it. That there was sometimes a live and presumably quite happy to be a live animal. So thank you very much for that. One question I had was about pets, because we do love our pets, and we kind of make a decision for them that we're going to give them health and food and security and love, but they're going to lose a bit of freedom. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Sorry, am I on? Yeah. Yes, pet be included definitely in another way of exploitation, could be said. Yeah, definitely. We decide that what their needs are, and there's also a question of breeding as well for animals as pets, and it is something that's take advantage of the fact that our perspective or idea about what a pet is definitely something that included in it. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so from a bigger picture, maybe it's better not to keep an animal. Is that what you're thinking? I don't have a clear view. I'm still learning.
No, I see. No. Oh, no. The more animals that we can share our lives with, the better. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very lucky. I live in the countryside, and I can have dogs and cats, and I feel I can give them the freedom where they can be their kind of natural selves. But it's yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have to unmute.
Thank you, Tracy. It was very educational to hear you talking about animals' welfare. I think there are a few issues here. In Catholic Church, we have the saint called Francis Assisi, who's supposed to look after all the animals of the earth and the sky. And he's supposed to bring happiness to the animals. So I don't know what happened to the animals lately. There's another issue. Last month, I went to Taronga Zoo by the invitation, and I noticed that the animals in the Taronga Zoo after the COVID lockdown, they were very sad. They were sitting there so sad, and they actually looked like they're starving. The seal fin swim very happily. The gorilla, the monkeys, were put together, sitting there. I don't see any food around them. I couldn't see any elephants around. So it was like a very sad picture for me. The other issue we got is we had to regulate the cost when we fix the dog or the cat with the vet, because like a very simple fixing of the, the dog will cost up to like $1,000. So who can afford $1,000 for a cat and a dog for each visit and always have follow-up? So you can spend up like few $100,000 or something for the year. So it is quite expensive. So the government need to put regulation into how much vet can charge a normal dog or a normal cat. So that is the thing that I see. And in the old day, we see it in the movies, Hollywood movie, Walt Disney created Mickey Mouse and the frog and the prince or the princess or whoever. So you see Cinderella always have a lot of animals around her, look after her. So animals are very kind of them. That's why when I listen to the songs Ave Maria, my pets always be with me because I train them to be spiritual. Mean next life they will become an angel. They can fly around me. But like that's how we train animals to become angel in their next life. So I think it's important. Just like we've seen a lot of documents about how they kill horses after the Melbourne Cup race, and how they are very, very cruel, as you could imagine. But they want to do the fast way and economic way, and everything just around money, dollars. So therefore, if we want to reform the industry, like we don't want people to kill the animals to get fur coat or rabbit coat, expensive coat, then, it's all about money, all about commercial, all about cost. So we had to move around that area, and the government had to put a stamp on how much each item will cost people, because a normal family at the moment, they all campaign for wage rise. They want to know like, oh, pay me more for the family. We don't have enough food for the family. So if they don't have enough food for the family, how they can afford to pay $1,000 for the cat or the dog to be fixed at the vet or at the hospital? So it's a very simple matter. It's not that hard. Thank you so much for your explanation. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's a lot of things there that you've said that's really important. It's about the zoos. If we could scrap zoos altogether, I think they should be, personally, I don't think they should exist. Literally, sanctuaries is another way of allowing the animals that we do have, that they could be in a completely different environment, something slightly, more natural, and where they could visit and interact on a completely different level. So that's my opinion about zoos. As to pets and vets, definitely there should be something. The government should intervene on this and help, definitely with licensing and pricing and making it easier for owners to be able to look after. And there definitely needs to be some kind of input in that on a social level to regulate all the animals that are left out on the streets, for cats that are wild or that need, so they can't keep producing more cats. Absolutely, that would be amazing if there was more intervention on that kind of side of things, definitely. But about many, the way that the thing is with the way I kind of see things is allowing the government to make the regulations and relying on to do to intervene is all well and good, but I don't think we can rely entirely on them. I personally believe that it's individual work. I think each of us need to kind of find a way of, like you say, how you are with your animals, with your birds, is finding a way to connect with animals where we educate ourselves and build some kind of relationship with them in the way that and how we teach our children. And then there's the educational system as well, intervening in a way that they can teach children about compassion and not taking them to zoos, going out on school trips. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, or very personal work on how we see animals and how we want to communicate with them and care for them. I think it's a lot to do with our education. So yes, it's a lot to think about. Yeah, I mean, the government can intervene with laws, making laws about how you shouldn't kill horses after the races. You know, I mean, maybe races should be completely scrapped as well. Like, there's a lot of work to do, but I think it's on a real, you know, deep social. Each one of us need to work. It's going to take years of work. We've got a long way to go.
Thank you.
I hope that answers any of your questions.
Thank you very much.
Ali, you've got your hand up.
Yes. Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Emily, for your presentation, elaborating on your love for all creatures, small and great. Really, I was interested in the way you explain the love for all kinds of animals, including human being. And when we read it in the Baha'i writings, we see that really the love is the source of creation of this universe and whatever is in between, and the love is the source of really putting things in order for us to live in a peaceful world. And of course, in the Baha'i writings, again, we see that Abdul Baha talks about showing love for animals. He said we have to be more kinder even to animals, because they cannot speak back to us and complain of what's happening to them. We human beings, yes, we can really say what is wrong and take our complaints to a justice system or whatever it might be. But my concern is that by no means I'm really saying that being unkind to animal is a good thing. But in the meat industry and in the world, really, there are some animals which are raised for their food and for our clothing, okay, using the wool or the skin or whatever, which Jon was referring to. Now, if we want really to put aside the meat, I mean, again, in the Baha'i writing, we are encouraged to be gradually get off the meat and go to be on the vegetarian side, which is healthy and good if we can. But how are we going to do this one, to train ourselves, we human being, to get really not to breed animals for the use of their meat and all these things. Really, that's my concern, because a lot of farmers, a lot of cattle owners and all these things, they will be up in arms. Really, this is our industry. This is where we get our source of finances and all these things. So how this one sits with the animal liberation? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm vegan, but that's totally my choice. I don't think, I'm not going to go around telling everyone to be vegan. This personal choice. That's my kind of taking a stand because of the way we live. So it's my stand against the heavy industry, the intensive farming. So if we don't eat or buy meat from that comes from the intensive farming, then it's going to collapse. The whole industry will collapse if no one bought it, it would collapse. That might happen one day in the future. It could gradually work, progress into that. Why not? I think we need to really be very open-minded to have any change in this world. Very open-minded. Never say never, really. But no, of course, farmers have been around for thousands of years, farming. Whether we see it going back to that is, going back, not progressing. I don't think that by going back to small farming isn't progressive. It could be a progressive way, moving forward. And so I'm not saying at all that we shouldn't eat meat. That's a personal thing. But how that will happen, I have no idea. But I think we need to have an open mind and find other ways. I mean, there's so many alternatives now to clothes. We don't need to use animals for clothes. There's the issue of whether taking the fur off an animal is humane or not humane. Buy anything that comes from animals. I will buy boots that are, they call them vegan, but I mean, vegan, the problem is with the word vegan is many cultures have lived without eating meat. It's not, something that's never been done. There's a lot of places around the world that every day, like we do now, they wouldn't think to have meat every day. They wouldn't go to, a takeaway down the road and have, a constant supply of meat. The way we live now is go to a supermarket and buy meat because that's the way it works now, but it doesn't mean it has to always be that way. I think there is, definitely a way forward to find a different kind of balance or harmony with the animals, allowing them to go back to nature and live in their natural environment, and us finding some kind of balance and harmony with animals and not so intense and abusive. So, yeah, thank you for that question.
Thank you. Thank you.
As Australians, First Nations people have a very respectful relationship with the animals that they eat. They have some people, they can't eat any of that, but other people of the same area or tribe can. But for everyone, it's a balance of respect and honouring the life, not just taking it for granted and not being abusive and disrespectful, but, recognising that there's an interconnection here and the love and respect needs to flow in every direction. And they feel that nature misses them. Even the animals miss them if they're not giving attention. So it's a much deeper way to enrich our relationship and go forward to actually having, the sort of recovery of First Nations knowledge in the world will help us to go in the direction of having more love in all of our relationships. But Siva's got his hand up.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. It was a wonderful talk, and you packed so much into this short time. Probably we gave you limited time. Okay, Marina and everyone else, quiz time. How do I know Emily? Okay. You are muted, Marina.
I thought I heard you met her on the internet.
Yes, but which way?
Is it through Tracy?
No. Well, I was actually looking for an indigenous lady, Auntie Ro. And on the Nextdoor app, there was a comment about indigenous thing and by the name Auntie Ro. So I was looking for her and I sent messages, she didn't respond. So I started searching on the internet, in the Google search everywhere. And I found there was some place, Ethical Emily. There was somebody called Ethical Emily. She had a blog and she wrote about, she had a small interview with Auntie Ro and she wrote about Auntie Ro there. So now that I cannot find Auntie Ro, so I thought I will contact Emily and find out how to contact Auntie Ro. But she said, I don't know. I found her on the internet and I had an interview with her and anyway, because her subject was so interesting and good for the society, I asked her, would you mind, we have this interfaith meeting, would you mind giving a talk? He said, oh, I had never done this. I said, no, this is an important thing. You had to share it with the world. So that's how I found her. Now we all know, and you can contact her and she will also share with others. But there was some one question, or there are many questions. One question, you said that the injustices are veiled. Injustices are bewailed, right? Did you say that?
Injustices are
veiled. They are covered. They are not.
veiled. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
What do you mean by that? And can you give an example?
I suppose I mean by that the conditioned society, the conditioned kind of mentality that we have, that we accept, for example, zoos. We just go to the zoo, without even thinking about it. We do so much without a second thought because that's what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And there's political wars, for example. Maybe we might take a side and say, oh, it's because of this reason or in support of that reason, when behind a war there's so much more going on. It's basically, wars are economical. So kind of referring to a lot of just the way we live. We're not kind of aware of so many injustices that that we wouldn't maybe see them as an injustice until we kind of get further information or another point of view, or
And you touched upon many spiritual principles that I try to espouse, and definitely one of them is love as the healing and solutions of problems. But I just want to share from your PDF that you sent this screen, which is very, very profound for me. You said, our greatest power to change the world lies in our power to change our mind about the world. A move away from an over-identification with the human ego. Tap into our inner resources, accept ourselves as loving, caring, and kind, let go of our perceptions, unlearn what we have been taught. All life is sacred, universal, moral principle of equality. they are very, very profound, and many of these are in line with Baha'u'llah's teachings. But I like you to expand, if you don't mind, tap into our inner resources. Please.
I've been working for many years on self-healing because of trauma, depression, which I think something so many people go through. And it's tapping into inner resources. It's about finding our own kind of strength, basically, spirit, our power to live, basically, a happy life. I think a lot of us struggle with this. If you haven't got a religious background, if you haven't been brought up with a kind of spiritual, healthy, spiritual childhood, you can struggle a lot in life to find how to feel a complete person. So we are always looking outside ourselves, maybe yoga, I don't know. Sometimes it can be very destructive. It's alcohol, drugs, to find some kind of different, mentality, or that just, helps us feel better on a daily basis. So I found that really it's all within ourselves. I can only really be happy if I love myself, if I find my inner being. It's very powerful once you realize, and for me it was like a click, that in a way allowed me to perceive the world in a different way, that it's not black and white, that it's not so dull and basic. We don't think about happiness as buying a car, having a career, these things that are drummed into us. And when someone says, what do you want to do when you're older, when you grow up, we always come up with the idea, be a doctor, be a teacher, why not just be happy? It's something that we don't consider enough, that really that's the most important thing. So where do you find that happiness? In this world, it's very difficult. So really it's finding your inner strength to be happy, basically.
Thank you. And that comes to one of the readings that we had today, which is this one. O Son of Being, thou art my lamp. This is a hidden words from Baha'u'llah. They are written as if God is talking to us directly. So we had to take this, God is telling me this one. O Son of Being, thou art my lamp, and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. The next one, O Son of Being, with the hands of power I made thee, with the fingers of strength I created thee. Within thee have I placed the essence of my light. Be thou content with it, and seek naught else. For my work is perfect, and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof. So perhaps the inner resources, the inner strength comes from this, where God actually has given us within us.
Exactly, because interpret God, or interpret it as light or universal energy, or it's within us all. So it's this connection of this oneness, this
Thank
exactly.
Thank you very much.
Ahmad.
Yeah, hi Emily. Thank you for your talk. I want to say that when you look at creation, we see these number of states: the mineral state, the plant state, the animal state, and the higher consciousness of the human state. I'd like to bring a theory that says that every element in the universe is trying to progress to a higher level, and as a result, for example, the mineral world its aspiration is to be absorbed into the plant world so that it would elevate its elements to a higher level. And same, a plant aspires to be eaten by the animal in order to elevate its state to an animal world. And same is true for the animals, that animals have aspiration to be eaten by humans in order to elevate their state into a higher consciousness, which is the human being. Having said that, I think human greed has distorted everything in the world. It has distorted this structure that God has built. Like we cage animals in order to eat them eventually. And these sort of things. I think probably, I don't know whether you agree with or not, that it's the human greed that has caused all these problems. There is no problem with that structure that God has created. And the desire of these lower states to go into higher states is there, but it's the distortion that the human society has built over these things. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the plants, about what you said in the beginning. I'm not familiar with thought or
that the minerals aspire to be absorbed into the plant world, and the plant world aspires to be eaten by animal to go into the animal world, and the same thing for animals too, as they aspire to be absorbed in humans in order to go to a higher consciousness.
Yeah. Right. There's a ecosystem. No, it's living together in harmony. Absolutely, I'm not going to argue with that. But there's always the that animals eat animals, so why don't we? That's, you know, kind of whenever someone says that to a vegan, it's the typical kind of argument. Yeah, but animals eat other animals, so why can't we eat animals? It's you know, I'm not saying that, but what other animals don't do is they don't put animals in cages, and they don't have thousands killed a day. So you can't compare. You know, it's animals eat animals, we eat animals. That's the life, like you say, creation. But it's interesting how that is connected with the kind of the vibe, no, of consciousness within the world, which has been distorted by this greed, because we as animals are doing that, putting the animals in cages, and we're out of balance. It's exactly that, isn't it, really? And if we were more in balance, if we did have this harmony with our ecosystem, then that is how a level of consciousness would, create that harmony. So this is what in Power verses 40 explains: a map of consciousness, which is because there's such an imbalance in the way we live with the plants and the animals in the world around us, is creating a kind of a low level of consciousness. It's a kind of low vibe. So that's why we continue to be in the state that we're in. If we can start to understand who we are as humans and that we are part of an ecosystem, then that imbalance would be more harmonious, and level of consciousness then would bring us up to a higher consciousness, which allows for the world to be more in harmony. So the more depressed, the more angry, the more violence, we keep it on a low vibe. If we can change society and change ourselves on an individual level, then it rises. We create more love, we create more care and compassion, and reality then changes.
Exactly, we need to change.
Not very good at explaining
need to change.
It is interesting.
Especially the slides that the Siva showed from your statements. Those things are the vital things that has to change in human beings.
This is the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, we are spiritual beings, and as a result, we have to aspire with these statements in order to elevate that consciousness that we have to a better state.
This is what I'm trying to express, but I think the problem as well is we have a lack of language as well, how to express this. So we can communicate it with each other and learn. You know, it's a lack of language, I feel, that to express things. You know.
Yes.
Thank you, Emily. Jung, do you have a final, or does anybody else have anything just before Jung? Does anybody else have anything that they want to ask or say? Okay, Jung, sorry.
Thank you very much, Emily, Tracy, and Siva. We're talking about we are part of the ecosystem, and we need to have balance in our life, balance, harmony, just like the sun and the moon working together, not go against another. And therefore, that will lead to evolution. So by evolution, we should not kill animals. When they are sick, we have to look after them. As you say, accept ourselves loving, caring, and kind. So when they're sick, we look after them, we don't put them down. Just like when we take the animals to the vet say he got cancer. One of the first things what people are going to do, whether we keep the animals or we put them down. So that is nothing to do with ecosystem, nothing to do with evolution, because ecosystem and evolution will talk about natural healing. And we never think about animals have a capacity to have natural healing because they are the creation from God. So God will look after them just like God look after us. So that's one thing that I think about. And I say a lot, like you say, like something here, not move away from an over-identification with a human ego. People like to talk about human ego. People like to talk about ego. But the more they talk about ego, because they think too much about ego. If people work so hard, they will not have time to think about ego. If they work in the field to grow the rice crop, to do the farming, to do the harvesting so hard, they will have no time to talk about human ego. They only have time to talk about how to survive, how to drink, how to eat, how to be a carer, how to look after other human beings, how to look after the harvest, how to make people not starvation. So people talking about ego, they got to think about ego. They think too much about it, and it's not balanced. It's not balanced at all. So therefore, what I'm saying, I don't know how many people like have been quoted to kill animals, a lot of them per day. They committed the first commandment in the Bible, you shall not kill. But then they've done that. Therefore, they make God angry. So what are we going to do about it? Because that part of the keep the earth balanced. The moon and the sun and the stars had to be harmonized. And we had to do the first commandment that the Bible said. Thank you very much, Emily.
Thank you. Absolutely. Too much talk about the ego makes us more egotistical. We're so very much into sorting ourselves out. If it's depression, we go to a psychologist, and we're always looking at, you know, why did this happen, and that relationship I had, and everything's evolved around, you know, what's going on in our past. And then we think about the future, you know, what is it I want? What is it I need to have? Very much about our immediate thoughts, and our thoughts take over our life, and we need to put them aside. Absolutely put our thoughts aside, not focus on all of that. Usually those thoughts are very repetitive as well, so they're just repetitive thoughts going on in the mind, and we focus on those instead of focusing on our spiritual being. And that's what we will absolutely have to work on. Another thing you talked about was the morals. It's interesting about the morals, putting a dog down or not. But then again, I think it's something that we need to get in touch with. How do we find this kind of unified truth of what is the moral of equality, or morals of unified moral truth about how to treat animals? You know, I mean, that's something that is very philosophical, but I think internally, deep down, all of us really know. We all have the answers, and they're all within us, these answers. But there's so much talk and chatter and ego in the world. It's very difficult on what God or the universe is telling us, the way, what is morally correct or right, or, you know, how to live in harmony.
Thank you, Emily. I think to think about human ego is not a bad idea, but as long as we don't overemphasize ego. You know, they have positive thinking and they have negative thinking, but the thing that most of the people have a tendency to think about negative things, and therefore they have to regenerate positive thinking to balance out all the, you know, negative thinking. So that make them become healthy, like you say, spiritual, human ego, spiritual. It depends on how we use them, how we use the ego.
Yeah.
You know, to promote ourselves and to make ourselves balanced with the universe. Because one of the things God wants us to do is to be balanced with the universe, with whatever He said, whatever He wants us to do, we have to be balanced with Him. Like in negotiation, in conciliation, in communion, communication, in therapy, in what you call telepathy, in everything, in messages, you know, face to face or telepathy. So we can't reject human ego, but we have to use it in a positive way. And a lot of people just talk about it, but we need to analyze what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Marina, and then we have.
Sorry, I just thought there was something after Jung was talking, Emily. Thank you for your talk, Emily, first of all. How do you decide, Emily, if a dog gets to an age, or anyone's pet, sorry, gets to an age and is not able to walk, or arthritis issues, or eyesight issue, or whatever the issues, is it a bad thing to put it down? Although they have a lifelong, might be 14 years, 15 years, 16 years, but is it something you see at an age, and is it something wrong to put the pets down? Because they're not going to say to, like humans, I got a pain on my leg or whatever, so I said. Is that something, could you sort of say, how do you feel about that? Or when do we decide to put them down, at what stage?
Yeah, no, it's difficult personal decision though, I would say, because, well, not personal, but if we interpret a dog's illness from our point of view, if we can't bear to put that dog down because we think it's cruel, it's obviously a very difficult decision to take. But if a dog or animal, not just dog, an animal is suffering, it's in pain, and we're only keeping it alive because we think it's morally correct, then, that animal is suffering because of our morals. So it's definitely tricky. I mean, that happens with humans. We have to make decisions about whether or receive medication or not, or should the person be able to, when they're in a vegetable state. There's massive philosophical issue there. It's difficult to answer. Personally, I find that very difficult, but I would say that, think of that animal. Are they in pain? Are they suffering? It's the main thing. And try not to interpret the situation from our point of view. Well, I need to keep that dog alive because I think, morally it's incorrect to put it down. If it's suffering, if it's in pain, there's this situations where someone had an animal that couldn't control itself. It was just, going to the toilet wherever, and the dog, or I think it depends, because the situation is because it was the dog, same dog. The dog has respect for itself. If it didn't enjoy living like that, it wasn't happy, but the owner insisted on keeping it alive. Personally, I wouldn't. I would think that animal was basically very unhappy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Emily.
Yes, thank you, Emily. Pon?
Thank you, Emily, for your nice talk. It was very nice, and that is a very good attitude as well. But I have a little bit of different view on that. More than liberation, I think we have to go into cruelty first. We have to prevent the cruelty. Liberation is a little difficult because we are now depending on birds and animals on food production. And we are making them artificially, hybrids and all, things like that. Actually, naturally, they are not created. We make it for a food. And also, these artificially made hybrids and birds are kept in very good condition. They are very comfortable. They are fed well. Only thing is we are slaughtering it at the end of their period. Otherwise, they are living very happily and very comfortably with food, water, even air conditioning and everything, because I am a vet by profession. I was in food production or poultry production work in the Middle East with about millions of birds. We treat them very well. In the sense, only thing is we had to slaughter it at the end of 8 weeks or something like that, the birds. So practically, this liberation, I feel, cannot be implemented now. But we can implement the prevention of cruelty. And other thing is because we are all used to this type of food. Say, for example, a chicken is enough for, say, 3 people for a meal, minimum. But if we had to go to vegetables, say rice or wheat, we had to have about hundreds of paddy plant or wheat plant or something like that. So on that way, again, we are getting into the spiritual problem or killing other life. So in that case, because it is in the mainly, I'm not contradicting your liberation. I like that one. I like that if it is practically possible. So now other problem in this, if you have to stop this food production, artificial by scientific or hybrid methods, then we have to eat into the what you call normal population of the animals. And with our population now, so there are dangers to eradicate or what you call extinction of species may occur. So with these artificial and scientific, what you call production of birds and animals, we are actually saving our native or the normal flora. So in that way also, there is a bit of advantage, but I always like to see even this natural production of animals should be done without cruelty, say not caged. Say, for example, in our broiler production, we house them as about 10 to 20,000 or 30,000 birds in one big house with all air conditioning and automatic feeding, watering and medication and everything. So that's what I feel there. Theoretically, yeah, I think it is impossible. Oh, sorry, practically it is not possible to get at it. I would like we go into the cruelty point and stop that first. The other thing is about the scientific usage of animals. Actually, they are helping us a lot in the sense to save us and other animals and birds also. So by, say, for example, when we produce vaccines, we learn a lot of things. And when we use it on the birds, because they have a shorter lifespan, it's easy to test them for many generations, not like in humans. Say, for example, we got some COVID vaccines, but we can't test it for many generations in human. So in that way, also we have to use the birds and all that. So that is my view in the sense. But your thing of your project on animal liberation is super. I like that. But if we can get it spiritually, that is a very nice idea and an attitude. But these are the other things it may hinder us. So anyway, I appreciate your attitudes and your projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's definitely liberation seems totally impossible living the way we live. We rely on animals for to live the way we live, and for science. It's a really difficult one about how to find solutions without using. But there is massive progress in finding alternative ways to test without using animals, because literally 95% of all scientific research has at the end no real satisfactory results, and it seems quite absurd, but testing on animals is the most ridiculous thing in a way that we've continued to do because there's so much money in it. The government uses a lot of programs for animal testing that could have been done other ways. You know, some people argue that, well, if you don't want to test on these animals, why don't you test on other animals? It's a very difficult debate, you know, because dogs are used for testing, monkeys, and then there's this idea, well, which animals should be used and which animals shouldn't be used. And this is where the problem comes when we talk about animal rights instead of liberation. Is rights is where we decide which animal has more rights than another animal. When liberation is, you know, you might not see it as reality, but it's a philosophical idea that needs to be taken seriously for us to be able to look at alternative ways of going about things. Using animals, for example, they use monkeys to be able to go to the travel. I think it's his name, Tesla.
Rhesus monkeys. Rhesus monkeys. Oh.
Yes, well, they've used monkeys to put in a chip in their brain. So they're testing on monkeys for the pilots or astronauts. I think it's up here. It's go up into space. I mean, really, we that's allowed to happen because we've got this frame of mind that that's what we need to do. That's progress. So I think liberation is just thinking about what it is that we consider appropriate or what we consider important in human life, to succeed as humans. I mean, we really need to go up into space. So I mean, it's not necessarily only the idea of looking at what's right and which should be used, we test, shouldn't we test. It's a whole moral, philosophical subject, really. So I totally understand what you're saying. I haven't got all the answers, but I do have a problem with rights. I didn't want to use, I started off thinking animal rights, but I just have a problem with the idea about animal rights. It can't solve all our problems. It's not a solution. It's just the way to kind of maintain the status quo. And then we can decide whether this animal is right or not. And everyone's just arguing all the time, and there's constant disagreement, and there's no way forward. It's not a way to kind of find some real fundamental solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from, the liberation side. Yeah, but yeah, this having animals and not having animals, for example, like you have in your with your birds, it's down to each group, isn't it? Each organisation, each individual to think about what's the best way of going around this, what's the best way to deal with this, and thinking we do need to every day just basically think, is this cruel? Is this wrong? Is this right? How am I coming to this decision? Are my birds happy? What is happy for a bird? What does that mean? Can this bird tell me whether it's happy? Am I listening to that bird? Is it really happy? You know, it's a lot to think about.
Of course, your vision is nice and wonderful. You proceed. We are in support of that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, it's very important to learn to listen, isn't it? Listen in many directions. It was very good listening to you tonight, Emily. And I'll just turn it over to Siva to say the last word, I think. If you have anything that you want to finish off on, Emily, after all the discussion.
Just say thank you. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. I've never done this before. I've never talked about this in a group in Zoom, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you all of you. Thank you, Siva. I appreciate.
Thank you. Yes, it's a divine providence that I met you. I told you earlier. And also, any challenges, problems that humanity is facing, I believe it can be solved as long as we are united. Baha'u'llah said this: the well-being of mankind, its peace and security are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. This unity can never be achieved so long as the counsels revealed by the pen of the Most High are suffered to pass unheeded. So any challenges, any problems, we could find solution as long as we are united in our action. So thank you very much, and continue your advocacy and blogging and whatever it is. Go and share your ideas with everyone on the world.
I will. I'm motivated.
And God bless you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Lovely to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Come back and visit us another time, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.